This was an unbelievable scene. All the marbles were rolling in one direction, but the ground was flat. This meant that the entire building was tilted. The casino began to panic. To prevent the marbles from entering the 700 million jackpot hole, the manager had tilted the machine forward, but Kaiji, in order to win the 700 million prize, had tilted the entire building backward. This reversed the angle, and Kaiji had come up with a mind-blowing way to do it. Normally, tilting an entire building would require an engineering team and heavy machinery, making it nearly impossible without such resources. Kaiji had even consulted professional engineers and learned a critical piece of information from them. The area around the casino was a subsidence zone, and the building had already started to sink. This gave Kaiji an idea. All he needed to do was place 20 tons of weight on one side of the building, and that would slowly tilt the entire structure. But placing 20 tons of weight on the casino floor, without leaving any trace, was no easy task. The solution? Water. Kaiji discovered several vacant rooms in the building, so all he had to do was fill 10 2-ton plastic water buckets, and in 3 hours, they would be filled and ready. This would bypass the casino's weekly floor-level checks. Now, the manager was getting nervous. Even though the tilt was at maximum, it wasn't affecting the marbles' path at all. If the discs were tilted forward, the marbles wouldn't take this kind of route. They should have lost their balance and rolled outward.
マックスでもダメ。まずい。こんな状態で3段目に行ったらまたトロトロと。ダメだ。それだけは。
As the manager watched the marbles, an idea flashed in his mind. Though the tilt had been countered, he could tilt again in the same direction that Kaiji had caused, and this would throw the balance off once more. If the discs tilted backward, the chances of marbles passing through the first 2 layers would decrease significantly. The manager pressed the controller, but his assistant immediately stopped him, warning that if the machine tilted backward, it would be too easy to win the jackpot on the 3rd layer. Once a marble passed into the 3rd layer, the result would be unimaginable. The manager had known this, but the defenses on the 3rd layer were not as simple as they seemed. The manager still had a secret move up his sleeve. He immediately ordered his assistant to fetch some tools. The crowd in the casino grew excited. Two marbles were entering the 3rd layer at the same time. The manager was deep in thought. He had worked so hard to reach his current position. He had once cleaned the dirtiest toilets, living under the constant moods of the chairman. The chairman was cruel, always bullying people, and the manager had to play along with his twisted games. But he endured it all, because he knew one day the chairman would die. And then, with all the wealth, money, and power, everything would be inherited by Hirasaki, who trusted him above all else. As a trusted young elite of Hirasaki, the manager would eventually have everything. That's why he'd been so patient. He couldn't let Kaiji destroy his life.
それを消されてたまるか。こんな裏カジノの店長くらいで。おお、来た来た。また来たぜ2段目。いけー。
But now, 2 marbles had entered the 3rd layer, and the manager was scared out of his wits. The machine had been set to the hardest level, and it was usually difficult for marbles to pass the first 2 layers. Even if they reached the 3rd layer, it shouldn't be this easy. The players watching were tense and excited, but in the end, the marbles fell into the recovery hole, and Kaiji's last marble was used up.